Welcome to the Productivity Podcast. Delighted today to be joined by Andy Elmley, who's Director at Red Jam Process Transformation. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Simon.
How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. So we're going to talk a bit around continuous improvement today, Lean Six Sigma, and we're going to delve into business improvement apprenticeships, which will be interesting, not something I'm massively familiar with, but always keen to find out more. Before we get into the detail, I think it's always good for people that may not know you or connected to you on LinkedIn or worked with you in the past for you to give the listeners some background of what you do, where you've worked before, and I think the business is relatively new, isn't it? So how you came about to set up Red Jam.
Hi, everyone. As Simon said, my name is Andy Elmley. I'm the Director of Red Jam Process Transformation Specialists. I've been in business transformation roles for about 15 years now, in large corporates, working in Sainsbury's, Argos, in Wilko. Had the opportunity to deliver some large-scale transformation programs, delivering over around £18 million worth of efficiency savings. I'm also a Lean Six Sigma black belt, and I know Simon said we're going to touch a little bit on that today. And finally, successfully graduated from Manchester Met University with an MBA, with my dissertation applying continuous improvement principles and technology to improve quality in Red Systems, company that I'm currently working in partnership with. They are based in the construction industry. Several years of business transformation experience. Yeah, I really wanted to share and talk to you today about continuous improvement and also the business improvement apprenticeships, and just give you a bit of opening to my world, really. Red Jam is quite recent. I met the managing director of Red Systems at university. He asked for some support in his business, so I went into Red Systems and he set up and helped me set up the business of Red Jam Process Transformation Specialist. Always wanted to work on my own, work for myself and set up my own company, offering specialist consultancy and process improvement to organisations. And this seemed like an ideal opportunity.
We'll continue to monitor the progress and clearly work together closely in the coming weeks, months and years. And no, it's good that you've taken the leap. Setting up your own business, there's plenty of benefits. There's plenty of sleepless nights as well, and probably working harder than you've ever done is what experience tells me. But I'm sure you'll be a great success, Andy.
Thanks, Simon.
We'll continue to work together. So, Lean Six Sigma continuous improvement. It's interesting. I find it really interesting that businesses, some I've worked in Boots, go through cycles of going down the route of Lean Six Sigma. You talked about being a black belt, training people up to be green belts, black belts, all that kind of stuff. Before we get into the detail of pros, cons, and where it really works and where you should be cautious, in your words, it'd probably be good for the people that have heard the terminology but don't necessarily know what it is to give us a quick 2-minute tour of what is Lean Six Sigma / continuous improvement.
Lean Six Sigma is, as you said, use it in many organisations. I think the challenge is, in some cases, the language, and it definitely puts people off sometimes. Which is why I try and just simplify it to really business improvement. It's business improvement methodology, and all we're doing really is looking at the moment the customer gives us an order to the point that we collect the cash or add any value to that process. And we're looking at that timeline and trying to reduce it by removing the non-value added steps. So essentially, it's for me, remove the technicalities and around Lean Six Sigma. It's how long does a process take? How many steps are involved in that process, and how much variation is in that process? And how do we reduce that timeline? How do we reduce it and simplify that process? And I think if challenge for everybody out there today, if you think about your day-to-day processes, is there any unnecessary steps? And I mentioned that word, removing the non-value added waste. And part of that is really to look at the 3 types of value add. So when we look at a process, and we look at improving, business improvement, we look at three types, and that's customer value add, What is the customer prepared to pay for? And is it right first time? Business value add. So what are the steps in there that are required by law? What activities do we need to keep in to keep the business running? And then finally, non-value add. So what steps can we remove? What steps can we simplify? And how do we remove them and reduce or simplify those steps?
I think the interesting thing you talked about there, and if we put our retail heads on, I suppose, because that's where we're maybe most comfortable, is variation or deviation. The amount of, and I'm sure you've seen it, process maps I've seen where somebody will lay out, this is the way it's done typically in a head office. It could be anything from let's say a pharmacy process, till process, stock process, whatever. More and more, I'm sure in the current times of pick from store process or cleaning processes, that's how it's done. That's the process map. We'll go off and measure it because, like you said, you kind of need the time blocks against each part of the process to understand the saving or quantify the benefit. When you actually go and measure 6-8 stores, the process map bears no resemblance to what's physically being done. Now, it might be called the same thing. Let's call it COVID cleaning for want of a topical process. But all those steps are all jumbled up. They're all in different orders. There's different steps that they've added in locally. There's steps they don't do. So have you had that experience of the variation is almost, if I've got 200 stores, there's almost 200 variants of some process?
Yeah, I think so. I think my experience, put our retail hats on, many a time where you've got 400, 500 different stores and 400, 500 different ways of looking at it. I think the challenge is, in some respects, that from a head office point of view, from a central point of view, we've got this idea of how we think the process operates. However, until we go to the site, go to the store, go to actually understand how that process operates and work and empower those people closest to the problem, we then, it's not until then we get a real idea of actually how the process really operates, how different it is from how head office think it operates, but the importance of empowering those frontline workers. A model called the Iceberg of Ignorance, Sidney Yoshida's Iceberg of Ignorance, and it's based on research many years ago that 4% of problems are actually only known, 4% of an organization's problems are actually only known to top managers. However, 100% of problems are known to frontline workers. So it's really critical to empower those people closest to the problem to really get an understanding of actually how the process operates, how different it is from the head office process, but more importantly, what are the challenges, what are the issues, what are the pain points that the teams are facing on a daily basis that actually doesn't come to the surface.
There's a classic photo, isn't there, of a guy walking down a road and they've put the path on the side of the road and he's just got straight across the grass because it's one quicker to get to the point where he wants to. And I think that the title's always something around design versus user experience. So, somebody's designed the path, they think that's the best flow for it. Actually, everybody who uses that route just walks straight across the grass because it's quicker to get to the traffic lights or whatever's on it. Yeah, it always amazes me that sometimes the answers are always within the organisation or the right questions maybe to the right people aren't being asked.
Absolutely. I think, the art is absolute within business improvement is facilitating those sessions. Currently, working within Red Systems, who are a structural glazing company based in the northwest of England, and they're based in the construction industry. And the construction industry at this stage, there's a lot of research out there about it should be concerned about the influence quality can have on future projects. I think the estimate currently is around 15% of all costs are associated to poor quality, and many cases relating to defective components. And one of the key things I did within Red Systems was empower those people closest to the problem. Spend time on site with the site teams, with the teams that install the structural glazing. Listen to their challenges, listen to their issues, and it certainly seemed bizarre for those that are involved. But getting them in a room and understanding their process, mapping their end-to-end process, but more importantly, understanding their issues and their challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis. Really important to empower those people closest to the problem. And I think out of all of the business improvement techniques over the years, the first one I go for is absolutely working with those closest to the problem, those on the front line, and listening to their voice.
Again, retail hat, hospitality hat, whichever customer-facing, customer-centric environment you work in, reducing variation or compliance, as people may call it, is, again, that holy grail of, there's a belief that the more compliance you get, you therefore drive better results. There's less waste, there's increased customer advocacy, increased colleague engagement. Lots and lots and lots in the press at the moment around tech. So tech driving development, certainly within retail and hospitality, whether it be chatbots or more things done through mobile devices by colleagues. Will that adoption of the next generation of tech, so maybe more predictive learning, AI, more things streamlined into process, drive out variation? Or actually, do you think people will just learn to work around systems where, back to the start point, they've not been involved in the construct of the end-to-end process?
I think your second point there, I think it's technology is great, and so we've had some great results. I certainly had some great results in technology, but the art is really how do you apply in a continuous improvement framework. In every role that I've worked in, it's around, first of all, how do you create that winning mindset? How do you develop that internal capability in terms of business improvement, but also empower those people closest to the problem to create that winning mindset before you even look at the technology? Then that next stage then is actually, how do you eliminate anything that's waste? So as we talked about, you've created that winning mindset. Now you're looking at that process, or that end-to-end process. What steps do not add value to the customer or are not adding value to the business? And then how do you simplify that? And then once you've simplified that process and looked at optimization, finally, how do you then use technology to automate that? I think it's really important. Technology absolutely has its place, but I think it's really important to map that against an organization's problems. So understanding what the organization's problems are and how can technology support those. Certainly, what I've seen in the past is there's this new piece of technology, this is going to solve all of our problems, but actually the organization's not really understood what all of its problems are in the first place. And they haven't done that, and they haven't worked with those closest to the problem to understand that in order to use technology in the best way.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. The amount of times, like you, we see an organisation buy some tech, and normally it's that expensive end of tech, so a new HR system, new CRM system, new EPOS system even. People start to hang lots of things off it, so it becomes this almost saviour of, it's coming, it's going to be big. We know there's a big change, and they do great work on the change management process and stuff. But this thing that's on the horizon all of a sudden is this panacea of answering or solving all the problems that exist. So it'll mean we can take payment quicker if it's EPOS, and it'll mean we'll have every customer's email address, and it'll mean we can do X, Y, and Z, and we've got all this extra future-proof functionality. But all of that might be predicated on you need a certain set of clean data, or you need all these parameters to put in, or like you say, the process actually isn't mapped. It gets implemented, everyone's a bit disappointed, or they didn't really receive the benefits. And it's normally the software or the software provider that gets the kick, not the self-reflection of all of these solutions, however good, bad, indifferent they are. Good data in, good data out, crap data in, crap data out. That saying is, everyone I'm sure who listens to this will have heard it. I don't see many project plans where they think about what's the problem we're trying to solve, then what's the next level of detail of, well, what processes do they involve, map the as is to the to be, but take the technology out of the equation, because almost the technology just becomes the answer, tick the box. When are we in pilot, proof of concept, rollout, all that kind of stuff? Does that resonate?
Yeah, absolutely. I think understanding the problem you're trying to solve is really important. at the start of anything that you start with. So, I think it was Albert Einstein that said if he had an hour to solve a problem, he'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions. So really investing that time up front to understand what is the problem you're trying to solve. I quite recently got an example within Red Systems, a piece of technology that is on-site. It's an on-site digital tool, Field View, and it does on-site health and safety. It does on-site quality. It's a great tool, but Red Systems has invested in it and taken all of their manual forms and put their manual forms directly into that digital format. Yet what they hadn't done is look at, okay, what are the forms that we need? What are the processes that we follow for those forms? So I spent a good 6 months with Red Systems and worked with empowered people closest to the problem, looked at what are we using this solution for? What are our other business problems that we could use this solution for? And then really drill down into the benefits of this technology, but link it to what are the challenges on site? What are the issues on site? And we've had some great results now because we took a step back and got that insight from site, but also got the insight from the site teams and the overall business, and mapped those end-to-end processes, and then used that and looked at how can the technology help. What it does and what it has done, it's shone a different light on the technology and how the benefits of Field View in this case you can use on site. And we've even now had Field View, the company. We've had a number of conversations around, sharing that. We've shared that story at their internal conference. We've been sharing it with other clients of Field View because actually the technology is fantastic. But if you looked at it 6-12 months ago within Red Systems, when we'd just taken those forms and dropped them onto the digital solution, it wasn't shining that technology in a fantastic light. But now, they're using us as a case study and sharing the benefits of it. Great bit of tool, but it took time. We empowered those people closest to the problem. We mapped the end-to-end processes. We understood, we took time on understanding what is the problem we're trying to solve, and then looked at, okay, so how can the technology benefit to deliver financial benefits, improve performance? And I think one thing alone, it was costing us around £15,000 a month on certain defects on site. We reduced that after doing that work to around £270 a month. So we had a massive improvement, but we stepped through that process.
There's a clue, I suppose, in the title of continuous improvement that it carries on. It's one of these things that it's not we do it this month, we don't do it next month. There's always that ongoing review, like you say, buying into the challenge, setting up for success. So how do you stop it becoming stale or people saying, oh yeah, but we've looked at everything and everything's as good as it can be?
It's important to have that continuous improvement program in place, and keeping that alive and ensuring the senior stakeholder buy-in. If I had to sum up continuous improvement in four phrases, I think it's the sustainable improvement of all processes. It's working closely with those who are closest to the problem, as they're most likely able to fix it. It's getting to the simplest solution, and it's making things better for our staff and our customers and the bottom line. And I think really to emphasize the point around empowering those people closest to the problem. If they raise to you challenges and issues of how to improve the process, or challenges and issues or opportunities that they're facing on a daily basis, if you take those and you drive them into the new process, or you improve the process using their voice, the engagement you see and the engagement I've seen in the past is fantastic, and that continues to drive continuous improvement throughout the organisation or throughout any organisation.
So having a good mechanism of sourcing feedback from the factory floor, the shop floor.
Yeah.
In modern world, again, we've seen it during lockdown, lots of people have introduced colleague apps where they can interact, the use of Hangouts, Teams, all those other WebEx things have gone up. So there's plenty of low-cost ways to source that information, isn't there? And there'll be organisations that reward colleagues that come up with the best ideas that then end up going into production. So there can almost be an incentive for people to provide their ideas to those teams to drive the improvement.
I've certainly been involved in a number in the past. As you've said, there's some real simple things. I set up an email address, a standard. If you've got any ideas to improve or opportunities to improve, email. Send the email in. We've used text messages. We've used portals. I can't emphasize enough how important that and that insight is. One of the organizations I worked in, one of their engagement surveys, the challenges of being able to voice their ideas or their issues or opportunities to improve the organization, that came out in the verbatim feedback. And one of the points that we did is we introduced an ideation program. And we allowed colleagues from the person on the till to the CEO to submit ideas to improve issues or opportunities where they saw for process improvement. And we allowed, we provided that forum, we provided that portal so that they could submit those. And one that came in led to a cost avoidance in an organisation of over £1 million. And sometimes it's the simplest solutions that are the most effective. And like I said towards the beginning, it's how the expertise or it's the facilitation. It's how you facilitate that improvement program, facilitate those ideas and bring those ideas to life. More often than not, that person on the till has got, in fact, the idea resulted in £1 million cost avoidance came from a lady on the till that was working 15 hours a week. She'd been with the business for, I think it was about 10 years. And it was just a simple idea and resulted in, say, £1 million cost avoidance in the organisation.
When I used to work at Focus, and I'll reference it because they're not around anymore, we used to have a scheme called All Ideas Matter. And that is exactly the same thing. I think you emailed it in at the time. The interesting thing was we agreed that however strange, let's say, the request was, because you're always going to get some interesting ones when you ask a group of people anonymously or not, that they had to be acknowledged because people are giving up their time, ideas. Some of them are practical, some are impractical, some are involved with big cost to implement, and all those other things that go into the consideration. But when you boil it back down, actually they've taken the time to try and make that business better. So even if the response is thanks, we've thought about it, we can't do it, I think people really appreciate that than it just going into a black hole and building the apathy of, well, I've given you 5 ideas and never heard back.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and that's critical in making sure that in some way, shape or form, I can only echo your comments there, it's making sure you give them a response. And also, you've got to be careful whether that's not just a generic response as well. How can you do a targeted response? I know it's really difficult when you've got thousands of colleagues in an organisation, but the value that some of those ideas bring, and it creates your pipeline of future process improvements. At one point, we were getting sort of 200 plus a week, and actually, there's stuff that's longer term. There was stuff that were quick wins. So what we were able to do is funnel that into a prioritization model. So based on benefit and effort, which are the quick wins, which are the short term, medium term, and longer term initiatives. But ultimately, the majority of the process improvements or pipeline of improvements came from the ideation program.
Yeah, it's interesting. It'd be interesting in future years how many companies kind of ramp the importance of that up. I'm sure there'll be some companies that stop or have stopped. So maybe there's an indicator there of sustainability. So interesting stuff. So the other thing we were going to touch on was business improvement apprenticeships. Again, timely, I think. Job market's going to be really uncertain. We've seen lots of redundancies, unfortunately. I personally think there's probably a lot more to come after we get through furlough dropping off, after we get through whatever Black Friday is going to be in Christmas, and then January. Was it last couple of weeks ago the government said we're officially in recession? So I don't know, apprenticeships came back. They've kind of been there at a lower level, haven't they, for the last 5, 6, 7 years. So yeah, enlighten us on the business improvement apprenticeships and what that's all about and kind of how it works.
business improvement apprenticeships are relatively new. We talked at the start around Lean Six Sigma, and Lean Six Sigma essentially being a business improvement methodology. If you looked at Lean Six Sigma, they measure it in belts. So there's stage 1, which is essentially a white belt, which is you become part of a problem-solving team. Then you move to yellow belt, then green belt, and then black belt, and then you can go up to master black belt. What the business improvement apprenticeships have done is use some of that insight, but map those into business improvement apprenticeships. And there's been some, the standards that have been developed by some really influential organisations. So BT helped develop the standards, BSI, Jaguar Land Rover. They all help develop the business improvement apprenticeships using some of the Lean Six Sigma methodology and tools, and providing a world-class thinking and tools in problem solving and process improvement using that Lean Six Sigma and operational excellence framework. It includes project management, includes change management, and also team working and leadership. And if you looked at Yellow Belt, for example, that's essentially business improvement apprenticeship improvement technician level 3. And that's suitable for operators, team members, and covers topics such as facilitating improvement activities and engaging team members. So even at that level 3, it's around how do you engage and empower those people closest to the problem. And that's a 12-month program. A green belt, which is essentially now improvement technician level 4, developing the tools, building on those tools, and more suitable for project controllers or professionals, team leaders, team managers. And again, it's developing that next stage of experience, starting to look at the data-driven problem solving. How do you manage improvement projects? And then black belt improvement specialist level 5. And again, it's more for senior managers, but its key topics are covered: leading complex improvements, coaching practitioners, analyzing data. And that's a 15-month program. So taking the Lean Six Sigma methodology, simplifying that technical language, business improvements, essentially. And that's what I do now. In the past, I've gone and said, we're going to train you in Lean Six Sigma. Well, actually, essentially, we're going to give you a set of tools and provide you with a set of tools, which are business improvement tools. And with the apprenticeship, the programs range from, like I say, 12 months to 18 months plus, but you deliver a project as part of that as part of your apprenticeship to the organisation. So a couple of key employee benefits, improved problem solving and process improvement. You're using data to drive decision making. And as I was saying, you are given a project, or you work on a project that's either aligned to the strategy and it's a process improvement project, and the organisation benefits from that employee going through that training and completing improvement and activities and projects aligned to the organisation. So typically, there's a 20 to 80% closure of performance gaps through that. There's increased staff morale and retention through making improvements in the workplace. There's some great employee benefits with business improvement apprenticeships. And then there's the personal benefits: increased skills and confidence, how improved employability, and a chance to meet and work with others. So there's some really good stuff about in business improvement apprenticeships. They're relatively new, been around a couple of years now. It's really good to see how they're using that continuous improvement methodology and mapping that into business improvement apprenticeships.
And what type of business are the apprenticeships open to? Can any business apply, or are there certain criteria?
No, so any business can apply, and certainly we're looking at it in terms of construction. I did a webinar to the Chartered Institute of Builders talking about this last week. Some experience talking to individuals from a manufacturing point of view, and I know that retail, some of the retail businesses I've worked in have been heavily involved in it. Yeah, the opportunity to deliver a project, business improvement project while working through your apprenticeship. Fantastic opportunity.
Most businesses that have to pay into the apprenticeship levy, this is, I suppose, the return of doing that. So actually, you get something back for paying into that.
Yeah, you do. Real valid point. As many businesses I'm sure have got a long list of projects that need completing.
If my memory serves me right, for all businesses with a payroll bill over 3 million, have to pay into it, and it's like 0.5% of their payroll bill each month. So again, it's if you're paying in and not using apprentices, then you're kind of paying for someone else's almost. So I think there's a real big financial benefit for doing that. People want to find out more about the business improvement apprenticeships. I assume they can get in contact with you, and you.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me a call. Send me an email. Happy to talk further on business improvement apprenticeships, and also share some further insight on some of the process transformation I've been involved in the past 15 years.
Brilliant. And where's the best place for people to find you, Andy?
So I have a website, which is www.redjam.co.uk. I have an email address, which is andy.almy@redjam.co.uk. I'd love to carry on these conversations.
And you're on LinkedIn as well, aren't you, if people want to hook up with you on there?
Yeah, on LinkedIn as well.
Good stuff. Well, listen, it's been an interesting chat. I mean, Lean Six Sigma continuous improvement is a world we work around. Sometimes the methodology or the names scare people off, but actually I think hopefully we boiled it down to something simple that people can understand and see the value of today. Apprenticeships, I think that's going to be the future in a world of high unemployment. Certainly for the younger generation, learn and get paid on the job, and as an employee get some benefit and attract some really great people that grow within your business. So that kind of stuff I'm all in favour of. Brilliant stuff.
Fantastic.
Last question then. I know you've listened to a few, so you'll know what's coming. What's the best bit of business advice you've ever been given?
The best bit of business advice I've ever been given, and I've said it numerous times on this podcast, is about the importance of empowering people closest to the problem. I would echo that, and I've echoed that and used that in every organisation I've worked on.
Echo that and completely see it from pretty much any industry in the world. So, good advice, and let's hope some people take it on board. It's been a pleasure, Andy. Thanks for coming on, and we'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Simon.